Hello and welcome wherever you are. This is a brand new season of The Next Big Thing. And I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest. He has been on the show before, and it was a wonderful, spiritually, musically uplifting episode. And so please welcome the giant in the New Age ambient space, multi-Grammy Award winning. His music is there every day in film, TV, you name it. You've heard him and his work. Please welcome the one and only Paul Avgerinos. Paul, how are you?
Well, thank you, Shri Ram. So nice to be with you again.
It certainly is. And I was telling you offline as well, I distinctly remember how wonderful our conversation was last time. We covered music, spirituality, life, everything that lay in between. It is truly wonderful. So thank you. Good to have you back.
Oh, my pleasure.
Excellent. Okay. And Paul, I hear you bring with you some exciting news. I am super excited since the time you mentioned, you just gave me a little teaser saying something big's happening around the end of May. So I kept my ears and eyes peeled out. So many congratulations on the wonderful release of Gratitude Joy 3.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful continuation of the series. And this time, I'm very blessed to be working with Siddhant and Keerthy
Yes.
Narayanan in India,
Yes.
and a very large cast of musicians and singers and engineers. It's a social media team, and it's just a really great group of people. So proud of of everything that we're doing together.
Excellent, excellent. And look, obviously, Paul, you're in the United States. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. So as you very beautifully put, you're talking in your present, but it's also kind of your future.
Yeah.
So that is pretty funny. And because I woke up early in the morning to make sure that I had heard a few tracks, and I was absolutely mesmerized, as I told you. But I wanted to make sure I heard every single one of them, and I have, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you so much for making this wonderful album.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's really a wonderful evolution of the series. The first Gratitude Joy was very, very simple and immensely popular, I think, because of its simplicity and its heartfelt devotion. But then, we've been expanding it on the second Gratitude Joy, the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra, and it got a little more evolved musically. And now this is just a whole nother level. It's really very, very lovely and expansive.
Yeah.
And I feel a lot of that pure bhakti
Mm,
heart in this album. It's just a very sweet album. The melodies, the
mm,
singing, the
mm,
musicians, it's just very sweet, and
mm.
um, it bears repeated listening, which is what we want. We want people to be able to just put it on loop and relax into it and let the mantras sink into their souls. And maybe they start singing along, or maybe they sing it later on in a different place, because maybe the melody sticks in their mind and their heart.
Yeah, 100%. And all of these melodies are very captivating. And of course, I connect with the content very deeply. That also helps. But just from a pure musical perspective, it is very fascinating. The elements, the various instruments, the vocals, the production, all of the elements have come together really well. I think this is very special. This is a very special one, Paul.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, we exercised a lot of discretion and equanimity making the album, because you have great musicians and producers. It's very easy to put in too much, to
Much,
make it
yes, yes,
too rich,
yes,
too busy,
yes,
too active. And
yes,
so a lot of our work was dialing things down, and
yes,
exercising restraint. And no, just let that melody be on its own. It doesn't have to have a strong counterpoint. And
yes.
I knew we were onto something lovely, because every time I would I'd hear a rough mix, or I'd work on it, I'd be singing the melody later on, and
Nice.
that's always a very good sign.
Nice.
I'd go around the house singing, Jaya Ganapathi Om,
Yes,
Jaya Ganapathi Om,
yes,
Jaya Gan, and I just like,
yes, yes,
wow, I just been singing Jaya Ganapathi Om for
yes.
2 hours. It's
Yes.
great.
Nice,
So it's
nice,
really working,
nice.
I
Well,
love it.
I can tell you this, Paul. In the next few weeks, many of us are going to be singing these melodies, known or unknown to us, in our albums.
Oh, that's
So,
sweet.
because Jai Ganapati Om was the first that I heard, and as is tradition, you pay obeisance to Lord Ganesha, and that is the start of your album, and beautiful start. I absolutely enjoyed Jai Ganapati Om very much, and as did I enjoyed all of them. I mean, you've touched everyone, right? From Shivji to Krishna, to Universal Guru, to Mother. I mean, so many concepts, and your Lokah Samastah, and I'm going to talk about all of them with you. Actually, let's talk about Lokah Samastah, shall we? I've noticed
Yeah.
people might or might not know this, because I'm one of those fortunate people that Paul occasionally emails. So his email signature has Lokah Samastah Sukhino.
Yeah,
So tell me about how these songs came up specifically. You can pick some of your, I know you won't choose between your children, but maybe highlight some of these,
sure.
how they came up.
Well, yeah, the Lokah is a very good example because in the current age we're in, it's a hugely important mantra and practice. My Guru Amma is
Mm,
always encouraging us children to chant the Lokah as
mm,
much as we can, at least every day. And so I've been doing that for many years, so 7, 8 years now.
mm,
And it's a wonderful practice. It's very calming, and you feel like you're doing something contributing to the positivity. You're putting out this positive healing energy. May
mm,
all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be free from the causes of suffering. May all beings know happiness. May all beings experience the causes of happiness. It's just such a beautiful mantra. It's
mm,
very selfless, and it helps us move into that oneness space,
mm,
which is so important,
mm.
of course, in any age for spiritual awakening. It's our
Yeah,
sadhana,
yeah.
obviously, but especially in this age,
Mm,
Amma emphasizes that this is a very, very important mantra because the human suffering level is just bubbling over, as it were,
mm,
So it's a wonderful practice, and it was so beautiful that Siddhant and Keerthy went to the extra effort of putting on a children's choir with
mm,
the Lokah, which is so fitting
mm,
because the child still has that innocent heart
mm,
that God cannot resist the prayers of an innocent child. And
mm,
so children are chanting and singing Lokah Samastah Sukhino Bhavantu. I think it's just very beautiful
mm,
and magical. And
mm,
so I think what you're seeing is we try to present kind of the most important basic mantra areas.
mm, mm.
For those that are very experienced, they know it's a big world. Obviously the Hindu pantheon is massive,
It's
and
massive. Yeah,
it's
yes.
massive, yeah. But we try to pick the ones that resonate with the common man and woman in this age, and especially in the West.
Mm,
India has a lot more Indians have a lot more depth of understanding. They're going to know all these mantras and all these deities.
sure.
But in the West, um, you know, Om Namah Shivaya is very popular, and Narayana people know and associate with Krishna. So yeah, we try to, give the essential. It's kind of like the essential kit for a desert island. If you're only going to have 7 mantras or 7 deities to connect with, you
Yeah.
can't go wrong with these.
100%. 100%. And I think you made a great point, and I know you're all about that, about the oneness. You mentioned the word oneness. And I'd like to highlight that despite each track having its own unique flavor and musicality and even spirituality, as you said, there's a big pantheon. But the one thing that stands out amongst all of them is the oneness. It's a listening experience that carries on through the album. There's a common thread of peace, of feeling spiritually uplifted, which I did this morning. And so I think it's brilliant. I think I'm very excited for this album,
Oh,
Paul.
thank you. Yes, that's very intentional. We try our best to, as on the other Gratitude Joy
Mm,
albums, there's a very much a continuity, of
mm,
energy. So the
mm,
energy may go up and down a little, but there's that common thread that
mm.
weaves it all together. So it feels like one piece, it
Yes,
feels like one work, not
yes,
not just separate pieces, but they all they all play well together. Let's put it, yeah,
they
that's
absolutely
great.
do.
Yeah.
They
I think
absolutely.
that's important for most albums, but especially a devotional album, I think
Mm,
it's essential because you don't want to jar someone out of their uh, meditative state.
mm.
um, it's pretty consistent. Only the Namah Shivaya, we allowed the more of the power of
Yeah,
Shiva to come in, and
yeah.
but I feel it's working because that's
Mm,
one of my favorite tracks. When
mm.
we first started working on that, I
Yeah.
had goosebumps. I was like,
Yes,
oh, this we
yes,
have to. This
yes.
is this is number three. This is in the place of honor,
100%,
'cause
100%,
again, Shivaya energy, very important in the Kali Yuga, because
yes.
we're going to wash out the old, the
Mm,
dysfunctional has to
mm.
go and be replaced by the new one. And this is what
Yes.
Shiva does. So,
The solution, yes, absolutely,
yeah.
that Lord Shiva brings. So, I mean, a couple of things come to mind, and I'm really glad that you picked the Om Namah Shiva album because that is my favorite for a very simple reason, apart from the brilliant musicality, is that I have a bias towards Lord Shiva. And he's what you would call an Ishta Devata, like, favorites, as you
Yeah.
say. And I think you brought out that gravitas of Lord Shiva and that depth of Lord Shiva, that Gambhira of Lord Shiva. I think it came out so beautifully. So
Yeah.
kudos to you and the entire team. Tell me, I believe there are 100 people, over 100 people involved in this project. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's really amazing. Thanks to Siddhant and Keerthy and their team. They have two studios. They have one
Ah,
in Delhi and one in Mumbai, and
ah,
they're both heavily involved in production in India,
yeah,
of all kinds of movies and albums and commercials. And so
right,
they have an amazing network of
right.
musicians and singers. And, it's so wonderful to have a team like that because,
Yes.
normally it's pretty just much me and a few other people. It's much smaller for me most of the time. Sometimes it's just me on a lot of albums.
Yes,
But this is a real boon for me to have,
yes,
be able to relax into such a team and have that support,
yes,
and all the wisdom too, because
yes,
we're bouncing ideas off each other. Well, what do you think about this? What about that? And
yeah,
so there's a synergy, and yeah, it's really sweet. Like the Ma Om that I
yes,
featured on, for my guru Amma, the Ma Om
yes.
practice is a practice that Amma has given us, the chanting Ma and Om. And so in there, Siddhant and Keerthy did a 30 or 40 voice choir of the Ma Om, and then I added another 30, 40 voices over here. And then I chanted the Sloka and the Shanti mantra on top of that.
Beautiful.
So that's very rich. There's easily 100 plus elements on that one track,
Yeah.
but it's it's such a blessing to be able to work on these projects. It really is. This one in particular is just
Mm,
very sweet to me.
mm. No, very sweet to me, and I'm sure to many other listeners as well. And I think this is just the beginning. But I think you make a great point. Even though there's so much happening in certain tracks, it doesn't feel like it. It just
Yeah,
comes together so beautiful. You at no point did I think, wow, that's a bit much. It was
yeah,
it was perfect. So,
yeah. A lot of restraint,
mm,
just because you have 100 voices doesn't mean you're gonna. It's not the Mormon Tabernacle 100 voices.
yeah,
It's more of an angelic choir
yes,
where it's all about the oneness. It's like how does each voice disappear into the
yeah,
oneness, and
yeah,
how does it draw the listener into the
yes,
oneness? And
absolutely.
that's a whole nother thing. It's funny because I always have noticed whenever I hear a big live choir, like 150 voices live,
Yeah,
I can always hear individual voices sticking
yes,
out. even
Yes.
though there's so many, because there's
Yes.
always some really strong singer who's
Yes.
like belting out, maybe they're leaders and
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
people are following them.
Oh,
But
you're mixing
it,
it.
it's it's funny. For me, it can easily become not big, like
Yeah.
because I hear one voice or two voices, but
Yeah.
that's whenever I work with choir techniques, my whole goal is to have that homogeneous
Beautiful.
oneness and smoothness. I go in and anything that sticks out a little too much gets tucked in. I call it tucking in, tucking in. You drop this a decibel, this comes
Yeah.
down 2 decibels, this comes
Yeah.
down three. So I'm a subtractive mixer. I'm not an
Nice.
additive mixer. So I'm
Nice.
always lowering things
Yes.
until it's all balanced. And then
Yeah.
I usually have to bring everything up because I've
Yes.
lost a lot of signal because
Yes.
yeah. But
Yeah.
the other one, people that do additive mixing, you
Yeah.
have the other problem because then you start overloading the mix bus and you have to turn everything down.
You
So,
turn everything
but
down.
I'm a big fan of subtractive mixing because it's kind of like in our sadhana, we need to modulate those vasanas, those tendencies that are upsetting us, you
Mm,
know?
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
that's the voice that's sticking out.
Yeah.
Let's say it's like, oh, me, I want more chocolate, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, or me, I want to get more money, or I want,
Yeah.
you know, and so you have to have to make a peace with that voice and kind of calm it down and get it to settle in,
Mm.
mix, find a place. Okay, you can have a piece of chocolate, but don't eat the whole bag of chocolate. So you make a peace treaty, with the Vasana.
Leave some for the rest.
Yeah, you tamp it down, so you get it under control. And not
Yeah.
just you relax over there and you play nicely with all the other tendencies and karma, uh, pra- pra- parabdha karma that we have in this lifetime. You have to find a balance, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
otherwise it's like a wild horse, like Krishna says. The wild horse, in the sense, will drag you away. It'll
Yes.
drag you down the road.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, it's I think mixing is a good metaphor for art of living,
Mm,
for
mm, mm,
sadhana, for spiritual practice, because it's all about balance. And
mm.
it's very interesting, when you're mixing, if you get these aspects playing well together, then you realize, oh, this over here now needs attention. But you didn't know it before, right? Because you couldn't see, there was too much dirt. Like Amma
Yes.
says the metaphor,
Mm.
cleaning a floor. You
Yes.
think the floor is clean, but then you start cleaning it and you're like, oh, wait, no, there's a lot of dirt here. And then when you get that dirt up, you're like, oh, there's still dirt here. We got to go again one more
Yes.
time. So she always makes that metaphor that,
That's,
once you start sadhana, it's like layers,
yes.
peeling an onion, you realize, oh, okay, that's my tendency. I have a tendency to get upset over little things, let's say.
Mm,
Well,
mm.
that's one of my lifelong struggles. Why do I get upset over little things? Hmm.
Well, you'll find a lot of people on that boat, and so
Oh
many
yeah,
people. I think it's sort of
I have plenty of company on that boat. Yeah, exactly.
it's probably so many people. It's not even a boat. It's probably a ship, but
Yeah, it's more like a continent.
more like a continent.
Actually,
Yeah.
we have our own country. The
Yes. Yes.
country of yes, the nation of people that get upset about little things. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
There's we are legion. We are
Yeah.
legion. It's true. But
Yes.
then, when you step back and look at it, you're like, okay, it's really just a way of staying separate, isn't it?
Mm,
It's an
mm,
egoic practice.
mm.
Because if I'm getting upset, that means there's got to be a separate I to get upset.
Mm. Yes.
Right.
Yes. There's
So
something
once,
other than me. Yes.
yeah, right. So
Yeah.
the little I, the egoic I. And once you step out of that, you realize, oh, okay, there's really nothing to get upset about.
Yes.
Even the most quote awful thing,
Yes.
if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. There's no point in, you know, um, in getting attached to it
Yes.
because like everything else, it will pass in
Yes.
time.
Yes.
So yeah, it's beautiful. I think the work we do as musicians and producers is so, so good for our sadhana, you know.
100%, 100%.
It is our
It
practice, you
really
know, a
is.
big part of it.
It really is because I'm going to share something and it's related to your album. So, as I said, I woke up early to make sure that I heard all the 14 tracks properly before I did our podcast. And then my wife woke up 2 hours later. So, part of our spiritual sadhana is that we wake up early and then we get ready for the day and then we leave enough time to have a cup of tea and then we read from the Bhagavad Gita and
Nice.
then we discuss. And today I was telling her about Gratitude Joy 3 and saying what it did to me. Like it was such a wonderful start to my day. And,
Hmm.
I'm still sort of in that space. And we discussed about how to divinize the rest of our day. That was an interesting topic that we spoke about. How do we carry that sadhana into the rest of the day? Like, come afternoon, I'm almost like, the ego comes in and then I forget to offer
Yeah.
to the Supreme. And so we were talking about this. So thank you. It helped with my sadhana. Your album helped
Oh,
with.
that's so wonderful to hear. That's so special. You
So,
know, it's
mm,
great. Go
Now,
ahead.
I've got lots of questions for you, Paul. And I know there are three wonderful musicians that are involved with this. There's yourself, there's Siddhant Bhatia, there's Keerthy Narayanan, and all strong, great musicians in their own right. I believe all of you have producer credits on the album. And so, what was it, and how was it like collaborating geographically with people who are not probably in this close proximity? And how did you approach collaborative differences?
Yeah, amazingly, there were hardly any differences of opinion because it was such a auspicious team. We were meant to work together. You know, about 3 years ago, Siddhant and I became acquainted through the Grammy process, and we
Mhm.
started chatting back and forth. And he would send me these little videos of him
Mhm.
doing arati and puja.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
beautiful. And he's chanting like a Swami. I mean, like mile a minute Sanskrit, very beautiful. I mean, like
Yeah,
the Almas Swamis, have been doing it
yeah,
for 40 years, 50 years.
yeah.
And he's a younger guy. And I was so amazed at that. And he said, Paul, I'm praying for you. This puja, I'm offering this puja to you and your daughter. And, it's just really touched my heart, because it was so beautiful. And I felt the depth of his practice, his
Mm,
sadhana, and
mm,
his devotion,
mm,
and it was very clear. And
mm.
so it's amazing when we started talking about doing an album,
Yes.
it was almost telepathic. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't remember. I mean, we had a few times where I felt like I had to, assert some directive
Mm,
modulation, just like a little course correct, but
mm,
it was very minor, really. And
mm.
I didn't have to say, I always said it one time, and he was like, oh, okay, I know what you
Got
mean.
it.
And then he did it.
Yes.
It's amazing. So, I
Yes.
mean, I don't think I could collaborate with somebody as well sitting right next to me.
Yes.
That
Wow.
was very beautiful.
That's
So I
huge.
feel it
That's
was
huge.
meant to be. It was that kind of a I think that, our gurus, our deities were
Yes.
blessing us and guiding us. And I would pray and meditate on it. And I knew that he was praying and meditating on it. So,
Yes.
really, this is the best way to
Wow.
collaborate. It's like they say in a good marriage, God is at the center of the marriage. The
Yes.
goddess, the God, the
Wow.
deity is in the center of the
Nature
marriage.
in the
And as
center.
long as each is relating respectfully, properly with the deity,
Yes.
nothing, it's auspicious. It's
Yes.
auspicious. You get good results, good
Yes.
communication,
Yes.
people are happy.
Yes.
And so there was very much like that. And so,
Wow.
it's interesting. I don't do a lot of collaborating because I'm
Mm,
always terrified of, the train wrecks that can happen,
mm.
miscommunication,
Right.
what what someone thinks is meditative music. I don't agree, and it's, or they think it's devotional, but it doesn't feel devotional to me or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I feel so blessed by this because I don't do a lot of collaborations because it's hard to find people that way you're really on the same wavelength,
Yes. Yes.
because um people may have good intentions, but maybe they don't have the skill or the a maturity to be able to,
Mm.
be on the same wavelength.
Yes.
But it's such a blessing when you find someone and a team that is very much on the same wavelength. And in this case, I feel he's beyond me in many ways. Even though he's half my age,
Mm.
he's a better singer, in some ways a better engineer, he's a better producer in some ways. So that is very auspicious. You
Yeah.
you you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room.
No,
You know,
no.
you yeah, you want to have that,
Yeah.
that freshness
Yes.
and good and wisdom energy
Yes.
to take you someplace you can't go on your own. That's
Mm.
the whole idea of a collaboration. It's just that lifts you up, makes you better at what you do.
Mm. Mm.
So
No, I think it's very obvious that all three of you and all the people involved really, there was the spiritual wavelength was the same, the musical wavelength was the same, and I think we're seeing the end product. And what it reminds me, this whole album, all these 14 songs, like in the Gita, they talk about, I think it's somewhere in chapter 4, I can't remember, or chapter 3, but it talks about yajna spirit, which is the spirit of cooperative endeavor, where everyone comes and contributes into the same fire, if you may, and offers into that for a collective benefit. And
yeah.
I think this is proof. This is proof of that. So again,
Yeah, like Atma Puja, where everyone is collectively offering into this puja, this sacrifice and offering, and it's very powerful because, you know, there's a saying in the New Testament that where two or more are gathered in my name, I am there also. It's very
mm,
similar from the
yeah,
Gita saying, where Krishna says, you
yeah,
know, that when you invoke me with a sincere heart, I am there.
yes,
I will not resist the
yes,
sincere, humble devotee.
yes,
So yeah, it's so beautiful to be able to be part of a team like this, because
100%, 100%.
yeah, so sweet.
And Paul, since we have music in common, and we obviously have spirituality in common, and this whole album, I think, is these two powerful things coming together, and they do belong together, as we've spoken often. And it reminds me of another thing in the Bhagavad Gita, where again, I can't remember the exact chapter, but Krishna says that I am the string, and all the rest is just pearls on a string. I think it comes at some point.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, Amma
I
says a
think
similar thing that she paraphrased from the Gita, that we are all beads on the string of love. We're all beads on the mala beads strung on the
yes,
string of love. Yeah.
yes. So can I just say, I mean, this is my observation, and I felt like there were 14 beads on one string when,
Oh,
when,
nice.
yeah.
Well,
So
thank you.
it really has come very well. And how long did the whole thing take? So take us back to the very first time the album came to life. Is it a 1 year project? More than that? How long has it been in the making?
Uh, I think it took about 8, 9 months. Yeah, not bad at all considering the forces involved and the
Yeah.
geography and everything. So yeah, it it went so smoothly that I never even thought about time. We had a kind of a loose schedule in our mind, and
Mm,
we got done right on time for that without any problem. It just went so smoothly, and I think
yeah.
I think that's what happens when you have the right teams.
Yes.
And if everything is difficult and frustrating and problems, and it's not a good sign. It
Mm,
means that you're swimming against the flow, you
yes.
know. So I think every morning I walk down about a half mile from here. There's a beautiful little river. There's a bridge and a beautiful river there, and I go there every morning, and I give thanks, and I invoke all the water spirits and the
Mm, mm,
oneness of nature, and just
mm.
revel in that simple beauty. And I always think, well, you know, am I in the flow?
Mm.
Is there anything I can do to be more in the flow, or
Mm.
is everything okay? Am I just flowing the way I should be?
Mm.
Uh, the Chinese Taoists have a beautiful saying about water. They say, water approaches the nature of the Tao. So the, you know, the Tao is existence, it's everything, it's God, you know, and
Mm.
the unknown, and it's just the unmanifest, it's everything. And so the
Yeah.
nature of water, because water is so accepting and flowing, it doesn't mind low places, it flows wherever gravity takes it, and it takes the path of least resistance all the time. And the Taoists have another saying related: the softest thing in the universe, water, will overcome the hardest thing in the universe, most hard rock. I mean, look at the Grand Canyon. You know, there's a funny joke. The ancient people are standing by the Grand Canyon and then looking, pointing at it, Grand Canyon. And of course, it's only this deep. You know, it's a little stream this deep,
Not
right?
very grand.
Yeah, right. And you come back, you know, 5 million years later or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
it's the Grand Canyon. And what was it made by? Water.
Water.
Water. The
Mm.
softest thing in the universe overcomes the hardest thing in the universe. And
Mm.
that's a
That's huge.
very true principle of existence.
Mm.
And so being in the flow is where we want to be, you know, we want to be in the flow. And so this project was very much like that.
Mm.
It I don't think it was even my idea. I think it was Siddhant's idea, you know,
Mm.
which is even that's even better.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, and he was like, well, what should we do? And I said, well, we should do gratitude, joy 3,
Yeah.
because it's a sutra,
Yeah.
gratitude or joy. If you manifest one, the other will appear. You know, it's a profound sutra that can help people. I mean, this is archetypal wisdom from
Yes.
the ancients, you know, the rishis, all the wisdom traditions celebrate gratitude as a principle leading to
Yeah.
joy, and joy leads to gratitude. So it's an auspicious, uplifting.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've
So,
opened
and
a new window for me.
it's something that the regular person can understand. That's very
Mm.
important. You
Mm.
know, Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad, this stuff can get deep, you know, and
Yeah.
you have to want to understand. You have to study, you really
Yeah.
have to dedicate yourself. It
Yes.
takes years, you know, to understand Advaita Vedanta. It's not simple, it's deep. Let's
Lifetime
face it.
sometimes.
Yeah, a lifetime. I mean, it could take more than a lifetime. It's so
Mm.
deep. But everyone knows joy. And
Mm.
everyone, at one time or another, they have experienced joy. And at
Mm.
one time or another, they've experienced gratitude.
Yeah.
Now, if you can link that in their minds, in their hearts, it's a gift. You're giving them a wonderful gift that will serve them all their life. And if they pass it on to their children, it will serve their children's happiness too. So this is what we're trying to do, is focus on the most simple sutras, the most simple wisdom that's practical, usable, easy to assimilate, easy to understand, and easy to use.
Mm.
Look, you're feeling sad, you're feeling depressed. Find one thing, just one thing to be grateful for. Oh, you know what? I can breathe. Oh, I don't breathe so good, let's say, but I can breathe. And then maybe I can find another thing to be grateful for. Oh, I can walk.
Mm.
Oh, how about that? Oh,
Mm.
and I can see. Oh my gosh.
Mm.
And what happens, of course? So you get this avalanche of gratitudes.
Yes.
And next thing you know, you're joyful. You have a quiet joy, not superficial happiness, but you
Yeah.
got that quiet inner satisfaction, that inner bliss, that
Mm.
Satchidananda connection. You know, you made
Oh, yes.
connection
Oh,
with
yes.
reality. That's the reality. That's our true nature. You've made connection with your true nature.
Indeed.
So that's all there in this gratitude joy. And I give pranams to Anugrah, my first partner on the Gratitude Joy 1 back in 2008.
Yeah.
He came to me. He wasn't even a musician. He just said, Paul, Paul, I want to do this album called Gratitude Joy, and it's going to have a Hari Om and Shiva Om, and that's it. And tabla, guitar, the bass, it's looping, very simple. And I said, oh, that sounds lovely. Let's do that. And so we did, and it took like 2 weeks to make that album. And it's one of my most successful albums of all time
Wow.
because, yeah, well, he came from the heart of an innocent devotee. He's
Mm,
not even a very good singer,
mm,
uh, but it doesn't matter because he's
yeah,
he's like every man is singing.
yeah.
He's the voice of a regular person,
Mm,
not a classically trained Indian
yeah.
singer.
And
So it's really a beautiful sutra
mm,
that helps the average person to come closer to the oneness. And also a beautiful part of it is it's not aligned with a religion or a particular teaching. You know, you don't have to be a Hindu, Buddhist, Taoist, Christian. You don't have to be anything. You could be an atheist and you could use gratitude joy.
yes.
So that's why I think it's amazing. This album, it released in 10 days. It went up right next to my most popular album of all time. The streams are very healthy, very strong. I don't want to jinx it,
Yes.
but it's going very well because I think it's a message that the world really needs now because there's just so much depression and so
Yeah.
much disconnection. People feel isolated and
Mm.
and sad. And so we offer this simple music and simple gratitude joy practice. And I mean, what a blessing if we're able to uplift souls, whatever number, it doesn't matter the number really, it's just that we're doing a seva, we're helping with our music. Then that's beautiful.
I
So
think your music is very powerful in these 14 songs, very beautiful and powerful at the same time, which is an interesting balance. But I think it also reminds, like you telling me this, reminded me to tap into more gratitude, right? Because we know these things, but we tend to forget, when life.
yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
this.
there was a great master once said many years ago, he said, if you can only do one prayer in your
Mm,
life,
mm,
make it a prayer of gratitude.
mm, mm,
That made a big impression on me. I think I heard that like 30, 40 years ago, and I never forgot it.
mm,
And I practiced it. And also, you can take it a step further, which
mm,
the law of attraction
mm,
teaching is give thanks for something that hasn't happened yet, that is in
mm,
your heart's desire. All
mm.
right. So you give thanks for something that is your heart's desire. It has not manifested yet, but you thank as if it has,
Yes,
as if it's a done deal.
yes,
And that's very powerful.
yes,
And Lord Jesus spoke about that. Krishna spoke about
yes,
that. All the great rishis and mahatmas have spoken about that.
yes.
It's the law of attraction. So
Mm,
when we see, let's say you're sick, you say, "Thank you, Lord, for my good health.
mm,
Thank you, Shiva, for my healthy body." And I can't tell you when it'll happen, but it will. You will manifest, or your words will manifest in physical reality. The mistake people make is they say, well, I'll be grateful and happy when I get the $1 million, or when I get the good wife, or when I get the whatever, the job or the success. But life doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You have to give thanks first. And then the Lord will say, well, okay, why not? Sure, go ahead. Here's $1 million, or here's health, or here's a happy marriage, or here's a successful career, or whatever it is your heart's desire is.
yes.
So that's powerful stuff. That's a deeper level of the gratitude joy.
Mm,
And
mm,
so we're hoping that, this is a doorway to the law of attraction wisdom and to the deeper wisdom of Advaita Vedanta, that the fact that we actually are all one.
yes,
So you're giving gratitude to who?
yes.
To yourself,
To
to,
yourself.
to God, which is
Pramad,
us. We
Pramad.
we are God,
Yes,
but
yes,
not in an egoic way, but we
yes,
truly are one.
yes,
So it's a beautiful it's a beautiful little sutra because
yes.
it's so unassuming and simple
Mm,
and ecumenical.
Mm.
right? It's very ecumenical. It's not religious at all,
Yes.
but it's a doorway to a
Yes.
lot of deeper, more, even more profound sutras and wisdom. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
yeah,
think.
yeah, it's good. It's a good thing to be sharing. I'm so glad that we're able
No,
to
I'm
share
I'm
this.
glad I'm glad that we're even discussing this because above all of this, whatever we've talked about, you're very right. The feeling that one is left with after they listen to this album of gratitude, of joy, it's above and beyond all these little detail, and it's we can get into a lot of these isms and all of that, but it is above all of that, right? I think so. Yeah, I mean, I'm full of gratitude for the three of you and the hundred of you that have come together on this project. And you've definitely given me a lot of joy. And I'm sure listeners, music lovers all across the world are going to love this. So I usually, in the podcast, we like to talk about the next big thing. It's called the next big thing, right? And you already alluded to that. If people want to attain a certain level or aspire to reach a certain place that they're not, it helps to build and bring gratitude in your heart as if you're already there.
Yes.
And I think that's quite a powerful thing. But for musicians in general, can I just ask, the music process and the music journey, whilst very rewarding, can also be very challenging. So how do you advise musicians to bring gratitude and joy into every single note of theirs, into every single breath of theirs? What is your advice? Because you live it. I can see that.
Yeah, yeah. That's a beautiful question and issue. And there's so many young musicians that are struggling and trying to build a career, just like I was 45 years ago. And what I remember, which is interesting, is those times, although, physically they were more challenging because I had no money, I didn't live in a very nice place. Life was hard, quote, on the exterior, it wasn't so easy, but in my spiritual life, it was actually even more blessed because I was doing what I loved. I had the blessing to be able to do music in some way, shape, or form every day. And I was very flexible. I would take any job associated with music. I would teach, I would play jazz, I would play classical, I would do recordings, anything, whatever you had. If it had music in it, I'm there. I wasn't fussy at all. I was just very grateful to be part of it.
Wow.
And so that's been my attitude since the beginning, just grateful to be part of this because I'm not the most talented. I had lots of friends that were much more talented than me. And yet I was able to, chip out a living in the music industry, in the music world. And so I was so grateful to just be able to be in it without expecting any results. And so that's karma yoga. That's very auspicious. So I was blessed, I studied the Bhagavad Gita when I was 16, in 1975. I studied the Buddha and I studied all the scriptures and I got to the essence of it and I got the message. And the message was very simple. It's follow your bliss, do your work, but don't expect any results. Don't be attached to the results. And so for a long time, the results were, well, I don't I don't want to be self-deprecating. I did have some wonderful results here and there, but
Yeah.
in general, it was touch and go.
Yeah.
I'd get one big gig and then there'd be nothing for 6 months or 2 years, or, it was typical life of a musician. There's a lot of ups and downs. But the saving grace, which is what all young people need to focus on, is the joy of being in music. How
Yes.
wonderful it is to get to
Yes.
go and sing for somebody, to play the
Blessing.
bass in the band, to
Yeah.
play jazz with a great jazz musician. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to play with Buddy Rich. He's a legendary drummer. I mean, that was incredible. I can't even believe that actually happened. It's
Yes.
just so fantastic.
Yes.
So it works, is what I'm trying to say, is this gratitude joy principle
Mm.
is not an intellectual theory. It's not something in a textbook. It's living, breathing, and it works because I lived it.
Yeah.
I lived it. It's only in the last 10, 15 years that I've had any actual physical comfort and not worried about paying the bills and stuff like that, you know. So now it's just very blessed in that way. But that's a small part of life, really, you know.
So you've been grateful throughout this journey.
Throughout the journey, exactly, exactly. And I was, you know, I was grateful for the ups and the downs. I mean, I had some big disappointments
Mm,
career-wise. I had
mm,
some mistakes I made. I got fired from this job, fired from that job, all kinds of train wrecks.
mm,
But I was like, you know, Lord, I'm still doing music. Thank you so much.
mm,
I'll give you a true story. When I was about 18,
mm.
I was very depressed and I didn't know what to do with my life.
Right.
A typical, you know, highly sensitive artist, musician. We're often like that.
Sure.
And so I had a little conversation with God. I said, you know, Lord, I'm okay with dying right now, but I'm also okay with doing music. You choose. What thy will be done. And the Lord said, let's do music. Right? And the Lord said, if things aren't as bad as you think, you don't know the brightness I have in store for you. So he said, just do the music and continue being grateful. But thank you for being honest, telling me your
Yes,
heart.
yes.
Yeah, I'm honest. You know, if I'm sad, I'm going to admit it. I'm not going to pretend. That's
Mm,
another secret too. Not secret, but that's wisdom also. You 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 unburden yourself to the guru, to the Lord, to your
mm,
deity. You
mm,
tell the truth. How do you really feel?
mm,
Do you have depression in you? Not that I was depressed, but I had depression in me.
mm,
Okay.
mm, mm,
So you tell your heart's truth,
mm,
and then the Lord process he resolves it. She
mm,
resolves it. You know, she lifts it from you, takes
mm,
it off your shoulders. So
mm.
you can go back to just being grateful and doing music if that's your dharma. And in
Yeah,
my case, it definitely was my dharma.
fantastic.
And you know, that conversation made it clear to me.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Lord God Almighty tells me to do music, I'm not going to argue.
The Lord knows best. Lord knows best,
I
doesn't
mean, I felt inside, well, I'm not that talented, but if God thinks I can do it, then I can
he?
do it, you
Yes.
know. Oh, well, plus I have this other friend. There's this lady that believes in me that she says that I can do a career in music. So I'm gonna go, I'll give it a go. And it
Yes.
turns out she was right. She was right. I started
Oh,
winning auditions against musicians that were much better than me. And they were like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Well, he came
that's
from
true.
gratitude joy.
He came from gratitude joy. Well, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
I mean, thank you for sharing these personal stories. And there's so many at my end that, I'd like to share, and I'm sure we will. But I want to, like, at a lot of points, my spiritual mentor once told me that God is not your wish fulfiller, God is your well wisher. So
Yeah.
slight difference there. And God, he, she, God, um, God knows best what's best for you. You don't. so, so I think that was very, very strong. And at times I have, taken my voice for granted. I've probably not had enough gratitude for it. I've even questioned it. And at one point, God took it away for a
Yeah.
brief period. And he said, "And now what do you want?" And I was like, "Please give me my voice back."
Give me my voice back. Yeah, exactly.
So, and
Yeah.
I think they were all very humbling lessons that taught me a lot. And as always, I mean, Paul, it's a great joy talking to you all the time, and I have a lot of gratitude for you sparing this time. But brings us to the end of the podcast, and I'd like to hear final thoughts from you. But before I do that, once again, please accept my humble gratitude and joy, not just to you, but to Siddhant and to Keerthy and the entire team that has put this wonderful album together. It's a must listen for everyone who has anything to do with life. Please listen to it. But final thoughts on you. what are your expectations from the album now that it's out in the world? What are you hoping for it to achieve? You know, just from your perspective.
Oh, I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude because it's going so well. It's going much, much better than my wildest dreams. So that's a very blessed place to be. But I guess when you step back and look at it, it makes sense because the whole principle of it is useful. The
Mm,
gratitude joy principle is very useful, helpful for people,
mm,
and so there people are responding to it. They're
mm.
feeling it. They're feeling that love, and it's helping helping them in their lives to be a little more grateful, a little more joyful, and to keep the focus on that oneness. Can't ask for more than that.
100%, 100%. So, thank you again for doing this, for sparing the time for this podcast. Much appreciated. And here's me on behalf of the entire musical fraternity wishing this album all the best. May it bring gratitude and joy to millions and millions of hearts.
Thank you. And thanks so much for taking the time to do the podcast and so eloquently as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.